Feedback will always be live. We are live at the Magical Kenya Open at the Current Country Club, where we know the Magical Kenya Open is taking place this weekend. And we've said the mic is in the ground today. We are focusing on sports tourism, the value that the Magical Kenya Open has brought into this country since inception, 1960 what? Yeah, 67. All those many years that the Kenya Open has taken place, what's the value? When you see other sports tournaments like the Sirikwa cross country that was there last weekend, the HSBC Sevens that was there, or even before that, the 7 series that we used to have every year, the Safari Rally, the sports tournaments that take place, Kina, marathons and all, what is the value that it brings in from the tourism perspective? It's what we want to discuss. Of course, we are also joined by our sports supremo, the Nation Media Group. This is Mr. James Wakabi, host of Sport On Football and very many other sports conversations. Wakabi, you have covered sports in very many ways. As we introduce our panel, the value of sports is often just looked at from the players and what the players are winning, the brands that sponsor and the kind of brand value that they extract from it. Not much do we think about the value that it brings to the country from a tourism perspective.
Yes, because in an ideal world, hosting a sporting tournament is supposed to give you not just the sport, but it's everything else around it. It's the tourism angle, it's the infrastructure angle that comes with it, because those ones should stay way after the tournament has happened, way after the competition has happened. So in the real sense, most countries will use sports at times as a way and a means of developing some of the areas that need developing. If you go back to London 2012, for example, where did they build the stadium? Where did they build it there? When you go to Paris, when you go to Japan, that's ideally what we should be able to do. And the key thing is whether us as a country, we are doing the same thing. Because you guys, all of you have been abroad. When you go abroad, no one talks about SHA, no one talks about government. What does everyone talk about? When they see your wristband, they talk about Kipchoge, they talk about Kipyegon, they talk about Omanyala. Why? Because that seems to be the thing that resonates the most with everyone else where this country is concerned. So as a country, maybe that is what we should be looking at. How do we use these sporting events to sort of continue to grow the infrastructure and what is needed? However, that's just my opinion. The experts are here, and I'm trying to figure out which way to start. Let me start closest to Jano. Maybe the youngest CEO in this country so far. He's been in for just a minute. Mr. Dennis Gisharo is the new FKF CEO, so he's the man who's tasked with making sure AFCON 2027. He'll be part of that team that makes sure it works. Then, of course, Lynn Washira, a person who was trying to ask her, how do I introduce you as? Because she's been involved with athlete branding, athlete marketing, currently works with Global Sports Communications. And then we've got Peter Gashero, the one half of IMG. They're, again, very, very heavily involved with golf. If anyone knows about sports marketing and sports tourism in this country, I think Mr. Peter Gashero would do it. And then at the very end is the man who is running everything this whole week. If everything goes wrong or goes right, it's all up to Mr. Maranga. He's out at the very end. So those are the experts who've joined you, Latif. Hopefully by the end of these 2 hours, we shall have been joined by a superstar who's on the way. As you know, getting into current this week is a bit tough.
Yep.
And maybe we'll have found out exactly what to do with sports tourism, sports marketing, and what may be or should be the end product.
Yeah, and we'll also have people from the tourism sector. We're expecting Dr. Kithitu, who is the chair of the Kenya Association of Travel Agents and the MD of Hemingway's Travel. But of course, you know, the CEO of KTB, June Chepkemei, was here with us the previous hour. She stays on because tourism is her, not just bread and butter, is what we pay her to talk about.
Quite true. Before we get into anything, let me begin with Wakabi.
Yes.
Last year, speaking at this same platform, talked about happy accidents. And the fact that sports in Kenya, actually that was a different platform, but talked about happy accidents. And the fact that a lot of times the success in Kenyan sports is a happy accident. It's just, I'm extremely talented and I pungulu pangala my way to success. Najipata tu, or I watch YouTube and I na. And there's always like incentive and corporates behind things. But for the most part, it seems like a happy accident. In the last year, have you seen any change as far as us being more intentional with building the capacity of our sports?
Well, that's okay. I'm thinking whether to give you the political answer or or what I actually think. Now, what do I think? We still have a lot more happy accidents than we have structure. Some sports have structure. Athletics has a structure. You know they move from where to where. So that at least you can tell where it's going. But a lot of what we see is mostly just someone showing up, doing something, and then there is a bit of help along the way. Tennis Kenya, for example, did really well to try and support Angela and go all the way. But when you look at it, do we have a structure like the people in Europe have, where they can tell you who's going to be a star from when they're 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old? No, we don't. A lot of the times, we are lucky. We just get lucky. That's why we have a lot of one-offs. Cricket was a one-off. We had a period where it was brilliant, but after that, it's gone. So we have to be more intentional about it. I still don't think we are anywhere close to what we should be. But then again, it becomes a case of what's more important. Is it food? Is it shower? Is it creating the sporting? So it becomes a whole, it's a never-ending story. It's almost like we are chasing our own tail in terms of what should we do first, what shouldn't we do first. But yes, we still have barely any structures when it comes to talent. A lot of the times we are surprised. Yes, and then we go with it.
Yeah. June disagrees.
I completely disagree, and I don't think a sports person, and maybe once they come here, and Peter here was once a sportsman, will actually be happy when we tell them that their success is an happy accident. I think it takes a lot more effort, a lot of discipline, a lot of training, a lot of hard work to get to stand out in the sports, and for you to compete and for you to succeed. I don't know whether happy accidents can actually be associated with sports. It may be betting.
Maybe I need to explain what I mean when I said happy accident.
Context,
happy accident
maybe.
is this case. None of us knew anything about Ferdinando Manyala until he got out, pushed his own brand so hard in the year 2020 that we were forced to take notice. Angela Okutoi, how many people knew where she was at age 16 or at age 17? But she somehow found her way through her own grit. And that's why Mariam said, your own grit, your own determination, your desire to succeed against everything else. And I'll give you the perfect example. Julius Yego. We dropped him from a world under 20 in 2008 to beat Gosh. We said, why is a Kenyan throwing javelin? They refused. They dropped him out. My friend and I pushed so hard for him. No one gave him a chance. The young man found YouTube, found everything. 2011 when he won gold in Maputo, he was asked, how do you train? And he said, you know what? I use YouTube. And only then did this country appreciate him the way it does. That's what I mean by happy accident. That people work so hard within themselves. They've got something driving them that they then push regardless of the odds stacked against them. And once they make it, we stand up, we celebrate them. We are all celebrating Njoroge this week, aren't we? He did well yesterday, 4 under. But how many of us know his journey? How many people know how he's had to go through? If you ask, how many of these athletes do you know where they... Aren't we all surprised when Kevin Kiptum shows up and runs 201 in Valencia? But we are asked, where was he as a junior? We have no idea.
Yeah, I think I agree with James.
I think to counter, maybe it's perspective. I just come from a school of thought of my glass is half full. So I would rather look at it differently, because there can only be one platform that showcases that talent, right? We have Magical Kenya Open happening in 2026 here in Karen today, right? It doesn't happen every day. So if you get to this platform, then we begin to see your talent. So I would probably reframe it differently to say, what is happening at the grassroots when you are building that talent? At what level do you showcase? Because how many sports personalities are all over the world training, but you only know those who get to certain leagues that are either national or global. So I understand your perspective on what an happy accident is, but I guess I come from a glass half full school of thought.
You both are saying the same thing.
Yeah, I think the truth is we definitely as a country should do better when it comes to structures in sports, because building on Yego and the conversation around Yego, I mean, Yego came out a decade ago, but you know what is sad? It's that I think 15 years since Yego made his first team, his first Kenyan team, we've not had any other Kenyan at the World Championships. We've not had any other Kenyan qualify for the Olympics. I think for me, it's more of like we are not building on that. And when you look at India, Neeraj Chopra, you know, he became world champion. And last year at the World Championships, we had 5 Indians in the finals. At the Olympics, we had 4 Indians in the finals. They were able to build on Neeraj Chopra, but we haven't built on Yego. 15 years later, we're still relying on Yego to, for example, represent us at the international level. So definitely, in terms of structures, we should do better.
That's what I was saying, actually. You were saying the same thing. And even June, in the earlier conversation, we talked about that. And you agreed that we need to develop structures, because structures, institutionalizing some of these things is what works. Without institutions, without structures, we end up with happy accidents. Somebody will just come out, you know, and they'll be fortunate enough to break through. But a structure would be able to identify them, to mold them, to nurture them, to elevate them. So we can do better in elevating, but we can only do better if we have structures in place.
Yeah.
Is it time for us to
It is
Jenna?
time for a break. I love how this baraza started. This is the spirit we need to maintain, because at the end of it, it's to try and harmonize what all these perspectives are and say, how do we elevate what's already good? How do we hold ourselves accountable? But how do we also recognize that this is such an incredible opportunity, even being here where we are? But how do we scale, and then how do we sustain? But it is coming up to 8:30. We'll come back and continue this conversation. Stay with us and share your feedback as well. Thank you for staying with Fixing the Nation.
What's up, nation? This is Parsanka Raphael from Kimana in Loitoktok. Sisi hapa Kimana ndio tunalisha Kenya nzima kwa vitunguu na nyanya. Kwa hivyo tungependa sana serikali iangalie bei ya mbegu, fertilizer na hata madawa.
Thank you so much, Rafael, for that wonderful What's Up Nation video. We love to see from fixers, especially when they come from Kimana. Hausio. That's wonderful, and you're absolutely right. Feeding the nation is part of fixing the nation. If you are looking at that What's Up Nation video and wondering, how do I share mine? Our number is very simple, 0769590762. That's 0769590762. It's at the bottom of your screen right now. Let us know what you're doing to fix the nation, what you wish could be done, what's working where you are, what's not working, and we'll be more than happy to play it on Monday. We are on ground at the magical Kenya Open, and of course we are discussing matters sports and tourism and the ecosystem around sports in Kenya, how to make it grow, how to utilize it, how to ensure that it works for everyone across the chain, not just the biggest and the best. So that's the conversation we're having. Our baraza has expanded by 2. We've reproduced in the last few minutes. Dr. Joseph and Ferdinand Manyala have joined us in studio, in ground studio, Yani. A massive thank you to you guys for joining. Just before we went on the break, we were discussing this idea of happy accidents in sports, and Ferdinand came in. Wakabi was like, you have to ask this guy, was he a happy accident? Are you a happy accident, Ferdinand?
Yeah, I always say that because nobody even supported me. You know, like nobody believed in the dream that I had. So I had to like fight through the streets because I was fighting everyone, literally, you know. So I always am I'm a good accident. I'm a good accident.
A good accident.
And in me, we're going to have so many talents that are going to emerge, because I'm not going to let that dream die with me.
Yeah.
I quite like that. Just before he finishes, what would you have liked? Like, in an ideal situation, when you are like, this thing, I'm taking it seriously, Minta Kimbia, what kind of support would you have liked to see?
First of all, you know, if your federation itself doesn't believe in what you're doing, then it becomes a whole problem, because what they see and what they want from you is something different. So for the guys who are coming up, I mean, I've made it easier for them, because now managers can come in and say, I want to look at the sprinters as well. Because when I first did my first race, and we did a 10:01 in Nigeria, we applied for a race in some country. I don't want to mention names, but the race organizer said he doesn't believe or trust any times that are coming from a Kenyan athlete.
How long ago? This was back when?
This was in 2021.
Okay.
That was my breakthrough year. So, I mean, things like that.
Yeah.
You know, people don't believe in you. That's the worst thing that can happen. You can have all the support, but so long as you don't have people who are trusting in the process, then it becomes a problem.
Maybe we should throw this back to June. Oh, Peter, you wanted to say something?
I think I must start by saying I have a soft spot for the federation, so I'm going to stand in their defense. Having run or attempted to run a federation before, I think we need to, going back to the question of structures, we need to look at the entire ecosystem and start saying who is responsible for what. By the way, what's a federation? who are they, who gave them the mandate, etc. But if you look at the entire ecosystem, I think we give the federation the unfair burden that we were all pointing fingers. That's where we were going to. That was the next stage. That's where Wakabi was going to throw stones next in the story we were talking about, Diego and all. But you have to ask yourself, where is the handshake? The whole sports system is a relay, and what we need to do is look at where the gaps exist. The relay starts, you don't expect the federations, for example, to be at primary schools. And we all know past 10 years of age, that's a bit too late. We don't expect the federations to come in at secondary schools and so on. So if you look historically, we need to start asking ourselves, where did we drop the ball? When I went to primary school, before all of you, there was a 150 shillings activity fee. When that 150 activity fee was dropped because somebody felt the headmasters were misusing that money, primary school sports died. Then we've now tried to go back to look at what's happening at secondary schools and so on. By the time a federation is coming in, has to start taking what the school systems are producing, what the secondary schools are producing to work with. And that's where they start. So we have to start looking at who then should be overseeing the entire ecosystem from start to end. That's my first point. My second point is basically sports also is evolving very fast. And sports is now business. In 1982 or thereabout, the IAAF embraced professionalism. Previous to that, nobody was making money. Nobody was allowed to make money in athletics. In the IOC, I think it's Samaranch who brought that around the 1980s. It became business. If today Eric here is a music performer, I would not be asking, he sings a good song. If he doesn't sing a good song, we walk out. Yes, it's up to him to buy his guitar. It's up to him to practice. So my message usually to sports people, you're in business, I'm in business. I don't call the business to the government to fund my stock. I have to work hard. So if you want to be successful in a business, you do what it takes in that business to succeed as an individual. You go to school, you get the right qualifications. Sports is no different. And that's why in our earlier conversation, we were saying, we are now seeing a lot of kids going to football academies abroad. It's because the thing has changed. The parent is saying, I'm not sending my child to this university. Neither are they waiting for a federation to do anything about it, because sports is business today. What we are seeing today at the Magical Kenya Open is a business. Government has invested, it's looking for a return. Everybody's invested, looking for... The athletes here are all here investing a lot of money in their training, in their equipment, their flights to get here, eventually to see whether they'll get a payoff. If we take the attitude it's a business, then this thing of pointing fingers ends.
But it still needs some support of sorts. Eric, just before you come in...
That's why I talked about the ecosystem in the first place.
Yeah, I know, and the gaps, but I think I want us to spend a bit of time looking at those, because I hear you in terms of it's a business, but then I think about the other Omanyalas in happening who are like, I don't know that I can see that far. I don't know that that's the reach I have. How do we still bridge the gap? But before that, I know you wanted to comment before Eric comes in.
Before he comes in, actually, you'll come and add on to this, because Peter Gashero has actually pointed us to where the gap is, right? June Chepkemei at the Kenya Tourism Board will come at the tail end, where there's already talent, where there are federations that are working, where she'll now then market that product and monetize it for the country. The federations will come in at a point where there's already some talent that has developed somewhere and pick it up and then also elevate it and professionalize it. But it will have grown from somewhere. That's cool thing. That's government. All right? That cool thing is government. When a child goes to school, at whatever age they're going to school, they ought to go there and find a structure that identifies their talent and starts nurturing their talent, so that by the time they're getting to that secondary school, she said 10 is already late. So below 10 is government that is able to create that infrastructure, that encourages them, that has teachers who are sports teachers that are encouraging them, infrastructure in schools that is helping them. By the time they're getting to teenage years, there's a structure again that's developing them. So the federation is coming and identifying these young, good talents coming out of school and putting them before that. So we already have where the gap is, which is
So we
GOK.
dropped the activity fee, and yes, GOK. And I like the fact that you are saying the gap is GOK, ignoring the other facts that there is also some sports management agencies and talent development agencies. But we dropped the 150 shillings and institutionalize sports as a professional pathway under CBE. What we should be asking ourselves now is, do we have infrastructure, enough infrastructure to support that talent in school, and pushing and asking ourselves, are we clustered learning institutions to fit into a talent? So if I am talented in athletics, which school should I go to? If I am talented in golf, which schools should I go to? And so forth and so on. We now have teachers who have gone to college to study sports. We have teachers who've gone to college to study music. So we are moving away from sports being a 45-minute break thing where children are making their own soccer balls and all that, to now having specific lessons tailored for that sport, so that you allow the talent to be identified, and we don't identify talent as government. It's the private sector that comes into these school games and now picks the talent and commercialize it. And I want to agree with that fact that when we look at sports as a profession and as a business, then we can completely fill in the gaps and ask ourselves who needs to be at what level in the entire ecosystem.
Okay.
Yes, I think if there's a federation that really relates to this conversation, it's Football Kenya Federation. Because we are the ones who, mostly from a football perspective, are involved in grassroots. So what we have done over the last 1 year is to enter into structured partnerships with the primary school associations, the secondary school associations, to be in a position to bridge that gap in terms of talent identification, removing brokers in between the player at the primary school level and when he professionalizes completely. And also through a FIFA program called the TDS, we're in a position to get scouts and also offer technical development to the secondary school. So we are trying as much as possible to bridge that gap that has been there over the years.
I mean,
Do you think it works?
no, I love the fact that the program, the primary and the secondary school program, is coming in to identify and help talent to, just not something of by the way, because sports pays. And I'm a testimony for that, because I've seen how much I've grown over the years in terms of my status and even financially. So I mean, if we can all just come together, like he said, it's no pointing fingers, of course, I agree with him, because blame games bring a sort of a situation where now it becomes, what can I do best? So that nobody is fitting into the work they're supposed to do. So I agree with everything they say. But I want to throw this out there. Let's stop politicizing sports in this country, because now that becomes a whole problem. Because now...
What is politicizing sports, Onyala? What does that mean?
I mean, no offense, but you can't give me someone to be in charge of me as an athlete who doesn't really understand what I do, what I go through, So when you go to him or her and tell him about your problems and your situations that you're going through, they'll not understand. So it's all about, just politics, when it comes to sport.
Umesema mimi kama influencer nisiweke kama chair wa Football Kenya Federation.
Don't come and tell me. At some point, I'd like to get Lynn's perspective on how she was able to navigate that, and work with somebody who's had tremendous success. I recognize that we also need to get into the tourism. I feel like, the way you have to, when you're having issues in the home, but then you have to show your visitors that everything is okay. Let's now talk to visitors because this is part of fixing sports. Tourism is fixing sports. I know we can't separate that, so I know we need to come back to that. But Magical Kenya Open, we've talked to June earlier in the previous hour, and just trying to get an understanding of the massive opportunity that it's bringing in. I want you to reflect on that even as you hear what is being said about the structure of sports and how that needs to be tallied in tandem with how much more we can do beyond Magical Kenya Open.
So swali ni
Kizungu kubwa ndio nimetumia.
Mtuogofa juu kizungu.
The irony.
Ama ni accent I should be. Tell us. Since we're here. No. I know you've been reflecting on what's been said around you, right? About the issues in the structures of sports. Do you think that also puts us at a disadvantage when we're trying to market the country as a sports tourism destination? That people feel that at the back of people's minds is still a lot of mess that is in sports. So do you think that also something that truly needs to be worked on, even as you're selling something as amazing as Magical Kenya Open?
Thank you. I do agree. I think, and karibuni Karen, by the way.
Asante.
Umekula?
Bado.
Okay. Yeah, I think the difference, if I would start with Okwabi, what you said, the difference between here and out there, in terms of the grit being noticed, you all know about was it Munywa, the darts guy who now we all talked about before, nobody knew him. That grit and doing the grind, as Fadi said, applies globally. Not just here. Even out there, you have to get approved in private, do your own thing until some light shines on you. So that one is everywhere. I think here there is massive opportunity, but what the challenge is, and I'm just speaking from my experience, is how fast things move. Outside there, in terms whether it's sports managers, whether it's tourism departments, whether it's sports departments, things seem to move faster. Decisions are made faster, good decisions are made faster. At times, I feel we need to improve on the speed of our decision making, such that when we are here at MKO in February, things are locked by last year, June or something. Yes, I know there's a lot of procurement, a lot of decision making, but I find the speed of things, if it can improve, then opportunities will also improve equally. Yeah.
I have a question. When we keep referring to our stars as nobody knew them until, we wanted them to be known before what? I have a question. For example, Janet, did we know you before you had a chance to hold a mic and broadcast? So what is it that we want to know? I think we need to put things into perspective, that you'll only be known once you've risen to a level of, because it's a competitive world. Among the many people who've tried it, you stood out, and that's when we got to know you. Why are we imagining that we needed to have known you since you were born? It was just a question.
I really shouldn't. I feel like I'm talking too much, but I feel like I should really respond. This is what we mean. Fedi had to fight through everything before we even agreed that he should run for Kenya. What happens in ideal federations around the world? That's what we are hoping for. You know the way you have to have a mountaintop. So our goal is if we could have the same kind of structure where if you go to US, for example, and check into their tennis ranks, they will tell you, Jessica Pegula started this year, went here. Like there's a whole structure of all the tournaments they played and how they played all the way to the top. There's a funnel that shows you how is talent developed from every level to every level. That's what we are asking for. So that then you're able to see. How many times when Rory McIlroy, when he finished the Grand Slam last year, didn't we see pictures of him at the BBC? Aged 5, aged 4, aged 6. So that's all we are asking. If there could be structures, like Peter asked, that we are able to identify and sort of guide them through those rights from an early age, rather than us saying, oh, Angela is here. Angela is at the University of Auburn.
I think we are making small steps in that direction. And there are serious gaps, even within the federations, in specifically what you are talking. And let me just try and address one. One of the tournament organizers for the junior football that's been going on 2 years ago, we started collecting data for the first time in this country, using standards, using technology that's already being used in other countries. And this is actually enabling us to be able to identify a good player, a good football player, who could have been in a team that got that lost. Because ideally, sometimes if you're playing at county level, by the time you get to the national level, there's a possibility there was one player out of 11 who was very, very good, but this team lost. But now with the science that's available today, we are able to take that data and able to record. I know that 2 years ago, we were also looking at how the data is being stored even within our athletes. We want to see this Faith, when she was 15, what was she doing? What was her times and the progression? And that data collection is something that has not been, is new in our space now, but we are improving. We saw Harambee Stars during CHAN last year for the first time using the pods that we've been seeing abroad for a long time. So I'm sure the coaches were using data. But let me just allow to add one more point on what my friend Lucas was talking about in terms of speed of decision. And let me just qualify that. It's probably not even speed of decisions. For us is to understand that for us to use an event like this to give a good return to all the investments, then it needs to stop being a 4-day event. Let me explain. The minute this event ends on Sunday, on Monday we need to start talking about the next one. Is it there? I know till 3 months ago maybe there were no funding and so on. And a very good example I'll use is the majors, the World Athletics majors on the Abbott. The day after the event, we open registration for all of them. And if you see, for example, if I give an example, the 2026 London Marathon, in April 2025 had 850,000 entries, applications, fighting for 50,000 positions. I don't think there's a better way of London selling its destination globally than the London Marathon itself. So in the same way, if we took our Kipkeino Classic, our Standard Chartered Marathon, and started talking about them 1 year in advance, I think it would make much better returns for the country, much better returns for the corporates that are actually involved. Because today at this event would be attracting more spectators if we made noise about this a while back. People don't wake up and buy tickets across the globe on a whim. They need to plan. They need to save that money. People plan 8 months before they know when their annual leaves are etc.
Thank you. Just before, sorry.
I just wanted to add on what she was saying.
Okay.
I understand. I'm a huge believer of use what you have to get what you want, right?
True.
Because nobody will bring it to you. But then you expect me to work so hard, right? Mm-hmm. But then the people in charge, let's say I'm training for 6 months in a year, but then what opportunities do I have? Like right now, all the stadiums are being closed down. Where are we going to compete? All these athletes are going to compete on Maram tracks. That doesn't count. So where the federation comes in is giving us those opportunities. As much as I'm working hard on my end, I need to be working hard knowing that I'm working hard for one purpose, for a cause, something to look forward to.
Yes.
I can't be working hard as a player to play for 3 days to earn 5,000 shillings. I mean, where's the motivation? I can't be working so hard 7 hours a day, 8 hours a day to go and play a game for a week and then be given 50,000 shillings.
True.
Doesn't make sense.
You're absolutely right. We're just about to get into a break, but I wanted to hear from Dr. Joseph, if we're just briefly about like this, the specific issue of that reward system and the structures, before we now get into this magical Kenya destination. How are we feeding into sports to grow it, and how is sports feeding into magical Kenya? But let's begin with Dr. very briefly.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, indeed, I come from the space of monetization of what we do. We can do many things, but the ultimate is what is the value? So when you go to a primary school class and ask them, what do you want to be? They just look at what the rest have been, those who have been successful. So we need to move one step further in what we do to monetize. We need to see our brother here and the like being ahead in the space of economy. Because this is a business. No one wakes up in the morning just not to have a return. So in all we do, I think also even the participant in the sport, there need to be that drive to say, what is my real value? Not just running, not just winning an event, but how do I motivate people by demonstrating economical value? So we need to move this sport. It's very nice, but one step further too, because look, we have a pathway now in the CBC system. That pathway has to be leading towards a fulfillment. Kids want to say, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a police, I want to be a teacher. Why? Because that's what they have seen paying. They need to see also the athletes, the sports people, being a revenue and a leader in their earnings. So basically that's a space. And even those who are in it, they also need to learn a bit of investing to show growth path. I come from monetization of what we do. Hospitality is big, there is money, and we just need to wake up and make it move. Thank you.
Just need to wake up and cash in. Let's take a break. When we come back, we move down into that sports tourism and where is the money and how are we taking advantage of all our various sports talents and making sure that we can bring in as many people to come and watch them and to come and invest in them. Fixing the nation, one conversation at a time, from the ground at the current country club where the magical Kenya Open 2026 is taking place. We'll be back shortly.
Thank you for staying with Fixing the Nation, one conversation at a time. Janet Bogwa, Eric Latif, Mariam Bisha, James Wakabi is also one of our hosts today. We are live at Karen Country Club, of course, the magical Kenya Open. It's happening all weekend, and we'll get into that in just a moment with the incredible stakeholders that we have as we discuss sports tourism. But first, news fix for the hour. The United States has reportedly removed key non-proliferation guardrails from a proposed civilian nuclear agreement with Saudi Arabia, according to a document cited by lawmakers. The draft is said to ease earlier limits on uranium enrichment and fuel reprocessing, a move likely to face scrutiny in Congress over regional security concerns. Supporters, however, say the revised approach could strengthen strategic ties between Washington and Riyadh among shifting geopolitical dynamics.
Some of the rules only apply if you're poor. Okay. Last news fix for the hour now. Argentina lower house has approved a labor reform and is awaiting a Senate vote. Argentina's lower house of Congress has passed a sweeping labor reform bill, clearing a hurdle before a final vote in the Senate. Now, the legislation, which is backed by President Javier Milei, aims to overhaul hiring and severance rules, reduce labor costs for businesses, and encourage formal employment as part of broader economic reforms. Supporters say the changes will boost investment and job creation, while critics argue they weaken worker protection and could spark social unrest. The bill now heads to the Senate for final consideration. I think hard to comment without seeing the bill, but definitely something to look into. Does increasing employment come at the cost of reducing labor costs and overhauling hiring and severance rules?
Milei has been doing many things in Argentina.
He has.
There are people who look at him and see he's progressive. There's people who look at him and ask themselves, how does this guy even look like? Much of what he's saying.
Let alone what he's saying.
Is he presidential?
What is a presidential look?
Yeah.
We all know, we've seen from others. Our conversation continues for this hour, which is on sports development, sports tourism. We're live at the current country club where the Magical Kenya Open is taking place this year. And with us, we have stakeholders in the sporting profession, from sports professionals to federation leaders, and we also have government in the room, which is June Chepkemei, the CEO of the Kenya Tourism Board, the Magical in Magical Kenya. She's the one who's here. And we also have from the tourism stakeholders and the industry, Dr. Joseph Kithitu, who is the chair of the Kenya Association of Travel Agents. Now, the previous hour we said, let's develop the sport. Okay? So we get to a level where part of development sports actually can also be tourism. And we've seen that. As we're saying, people wanting to come and see where are these guys actually developed, or these world beaters, where are they developed? That is also a tourism attraction by itself. June, I know you have a meeting to leave, and it's serikali iko busy. You'll be leaving shortly. But as we get into this second hour of the conversation, we talked earlier about the value of sports tourism globally. And we said $1.8 billion in circulation in sports tourism globally. And Kenya is looking into tapping into those billions What are our opportunities as you sit here and you talk to the federations, as you sit here and you talk to the tourism stakeholders? What are the opportunities that you see as a Kenya Tourism Board and that you're working towards getting?
The opportunity lies in all of us, the stakeholders, working together to build world-class, or rather to conceptualize world-class activities, from urban marathons to the DP World kind of events, and ensuring that we are so structured that we market them jointly early enough so that we can drive the traffic to Kenya. Peter did mention about London Marathon, and I was tempted to ask him how many people actually participate in London Marathon. Those are huge numbers. If you look at Chicago Marathon, is there an opportunity for us turning our own locally developed initiatives to that level? No one player can do it. Government will provide the platform. Government will de-risk it. The private sector comes in to position it and commercialize it, like the gentleman here said his job is to turn it into money, so that as a young person looking to get into sports, I can see where the money is and I'm able to follow a clear pathway that will henceforth bring value. Look at the prize money for Magical Kenya Open, you know, $2.7 million. That is clarity that sports pay. So any young person looking to play golf, for example, will be fighting hard to get the grade to go to Lenana, where there's a golf course, so that they can practice to become golfers. Same should happen to all other facets of the sport. But just to say this, because as soon as I leave, Lynn will contradict me. The government provides the platform. The government builds the infrastructure. The government regulates and gets the policies in place. The rest of us have a role to play. The federation nurtures that talent. Who is developing it? Who is taking it to market? Who is commercializing it? Lastly, we'd also like to encourage our sports men and women to look beyond the pitch, so that what else can we do outside when you're not, playing? What can we do? Can we use you to market the country? Can we use you to... Those are the other avenues that brands can, make really sports lucrative, and we'll be able to see them contributing to the economy in a big way.
This is an opportunity for Lynn to contradict you. I'm giving her the mic to do that, and also...
Feedback shall be live.
Feedback shall be live. Oh, you wanted to come in?
Yeah, maybe I just add one more.
Okay.
I do know that, now speaking again from the federation side, yeah, I told you I'm soft side on that side. I think we need to do a little bit more as sports organizers to position ourselves as properties that the tourism sector can actually benefit from. Let me give you an example. For example, this event that we are at, is it positioned in a way that tour operators looked at it and said, wait a minute, I can put this as part of my package, so that when they are marketing the destination, there is a Masai Mara via Current Club for the MKO to spectate, and so on. And I don't know how many of you know that we have an athletics museum, which Barbara will tell us about, but I'm sure the tour operators do not know that there's actually an athletics museum where you can actually go and see some of our medals and stuff like that, so that it's part of the package that the tour operators market out there. So we need to ensure that the sport is positioned in a way that we are part of the itinerary that the tour operators actually provide.
And trying to understand how, again, it's about collaboration, because if the tour operators may not be aware, then again, how do we bridge that gap? We'll come back to you. And Lynn, when you think of sports tourism, sports greatness, we have Ferdinand Omanyala, we have Faith Kipyegon, we have Eliud Kipchoge. Lynn, you've worked with him. What worked in his favor that turned him into a brand that has become so synonymous with Kenya and tourism? People, often even coming to see, where did he come from? What is his story? Because that begins to turn the wheels on what more could be done. We've spoken to it briefly, the structures, etc. But yeah, just speak to the one thing that kind of worked in his favor beyond the hard work and the resilience to then turn him into that brand that has become synonymous with Kenya.
Okay, wow, that's a very straightforward and tricky question to answer. And first of all, you're right. I think one of the largest exports that we have as a country is our athletes. And everybody who's traveled abroad will tell you, if you have the Kenyan wristband, okay, I don't have it, but Corilla is, oh, everybody on the panel has it. Oh my gosh, like, do you all have the Kenyan wristband? Let's see by show of hand. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 4, 5. Wow, 5. Okay.
We'll do better.
We should definitely do better. Akwapi Juna tupatie, but yeah. Every time you have the Kenyan wristband or you have a Masai Shuka, for example, and you are abroad, everybody will stop you and probably ask, do you run? Like, how fast can you run? And that's the point where, I mean, since they're not challenging you, you always say, like, I'm a really good athlete, right? Even if you're not. Do you think I am? I saw you, yeah. But yeah, that's the point where you get to say you're a very good athlete or you're not. So, the likes of Faith Kipyegon, the likes of Eliud Kipchoge, of course they are standout talents. And I think to answer to your question, what worked for Eliud, for example, in terms of turning him into, this phenomenon or into a commercial asset, because I think you want us to speak about, the commercial viability and just the fact that he's been able to attract quite a number of homegrown brands to be his partner. First of all, it's because when it comes to his personal branding, his personal image, he transcends running. He does stand for something more. He doesn't just run. He has another image and another side out of running. A lot of people don't even know how many marathons he's run. A lot of people don't even know he's lost, the last, I think, 4 or 3 marathons that he's participated in, because they see him beyond competition. And I think one of the things, working with him, because it started a while back, supporting him. I think it's 9 years this year. So it's been quite a journey. And so, of course, I've seen him evolve. And one of the things that I've learned is that corporates are not in philanthropy business. They are there because they are looking at return on investment. They are looking at visibility. They are looking at creating impact. But in the beginning, they really have to see the value. So when it comes to what, June was talking about, and I think Peter as well, about, who takes this product to the market? How do you take it to the market? That's where, like sports marketers, that's where we come in. That's where, like brand consultants, that's where you definitely come in. Because I'll tell you for a fact, as much as Eliud is a huge brand, the first, for example, local deal that we had, it's going to be 9 years in May since that first local partnership that is still, that partnership is still going. They didn't come to us. We went to them. We didn't wait for them to come looking. We went to them and we gave them the value proposition. So as a sport entity, as an athlete, as a federation, when you're going to a corporate, you have to really show them your value proposition. Do you have the eyeballs? If is your sport getting covered? If you're an athlete right now, you're lucky because you can, I'm not saying you can disregard traditional media, but you can make use of the digital space to just make sure that you have your numbers. Like when you're going to a corporate, you're actually able to show your reach. And I know, Fadi, like on your deck, you have that, where you're showing, these are my numbers on Instagram, on X, on TikTok, on all these other platforms. So it's really about going to the corporates and showing them how, showing them why, and also like just having really like a brand that is going to outlive your talent. And now that Fadi is here, I could even just point out at Fadi, because when we were talking about like even talent development and his journey and what he's been able to do, Fadi is living proof that sports is a business. You know, he doesn't just run, he makes sure that beyond that, he also has, you know, something else going. And in terms of, like, you know, just looking beyond winning, I don't know why Fadio didn't talk about the fact that you're also playing a part in, you know, sealing the gap and bridging the gap when it comes to sprinting. Haven't you launched 2 sprinting clubs?
He did mention it, but very
It was very, I felt like it was very brief and,
right.
You know,
He's a modest man.
As you get into that answer, Ferdinand, please also go into the self-branding, right? Because what she's talking about is something that we've seen you do. And then we'll pivot the conversation to now the entire idea of Kenya as a tourist destination when it comes to sports. When you go outside as well, what are those things that make you stay 2 days extra somewhere? You know, like that. But start with like her question and the self-branding bit, and then now we'll expand into the tourism bit.
Yeah, when I started doing sprinting, I didn't have an easy way. Like I said, it was tough, you know, growing into that space. But then now what I'm doing with my foundation is trying to make it easy for the athletes. I don't want the athletes to start thinking about who is my coach. I don't want the athletes to start thinking about who is my physio, who's taking care of my races, who's doing this and that. So what I foresee for athletes is, what you do, just wake up, go and train, go back home, everybody else, I mean, everything else is taken care of. And I'm glad because now the Sprint Club is into 5 schools now. We are looking to expand. I'm here to have that discussion with the youth director, but I don't want to preempt a lot because we need to talk about that. But he promised, actually, I know he will mention it at some point, but he promised to take care of that as well and support the club. So we are trying to bring that, and as you know, the CBC is going to be so big in sports. And what I want to do with this club as well is to raise the level of competition in high school. If you can, and the guys who are into athletics know, Jamaica always have the biggest numbers in the high school trials, more than the Olympic trials, because they want to see who's the next star. So that's what we want to bring into the country in terms of sprints. I want to have a level of professionalism in those fields. I want to have these kids running faster times and, you know, being serious even in those events, bring timetronics, electronic timetronics to those events, because these kids will be timed, hand-timed, and they'll be lied to. You're running a 9. And so these kids start having this mindset that running a 9 is easy. I can just wake up and do a 1-hour session and then go and run a 9. So we want to bring that reality into their minds as early as primary schools, you know. So that's the main purpose of why I started the club. And talking about branding, it's always past the finish line. I mean, branding is not what you do in the field. It's what you do after. And many a times I've seen world champions, Olympic champions, who really don't have numbers. And companies right now are looking into that. What are you outside your field of play? Not just in athletics, but every other sport. How do you interact with the fans after you've crossed that finish line? Like, people want to see you win or lose. Are you appreciating them, the value for their tickets? They're coming to the stands to see you run, to see you play. Do you appreciate them, that they're here? Not just walking out of the stadium and like not signing anything. So, and for me, I think for me it's a natural because ever since back then, I used to call guys to come and take photos of me training, take photos of me just doing something and then just post it because I love doing that. And then it came to become something that you can change that into monetary value, you know. So to athletes as well, education is important. I feel like education has really helped me traverse all these aspects, you know, being called to a panel like this to just give my opinions and just know how to express yourself. So that's one bit that I'm really pushing as well, for at least just go to school. I understand some make money while still very young, but now you're not going to school to make money. You're going to school to get that knowledge and to interact with all these different cultures and people from different communities, and just to know how to interact with those people, you know. And every time I go abroad, sometimes I'm not in a very good shape, but, you know, the branding aspect of me earns me lanes in these diamond leagues and races as well. So it all comes down to how you interact and who you are outside the field of play.
So I think at the end of the day, when it comes to the finished product, because, you know, we've been talking about, you know, like, you know, how do you get to the finished product? Let's say you've gotten to the finished product. At the end of the day, you have to package the finished product really well, like give it legs for it to grow and send it out there.
Maybe we shift this conversation to Barnaba, because he's just joined us, Deputy President NOC. Sports and tourism is really, really big from where you see it, because you're involved with all these events. You're like the super meet director of this country. Sirikwa, Kipkeino, Magical Kenya Open. What's the impact, especially when we talk numbers, when we talk money, when we talk looking at it from not just the sport, but its impact?
I think this is the right time to have a discussion concerning the value addition that athletes bring. It's been quite a while that we had a conversation on the benefits of what athletes bring. Before, it was mainly the discussion about how many medals we are winning, bringing to the country, and many other things. But the aspect of economic value that athletes bring has not been there. If I take statistically, which we did as Athletes Kenya, which is actually the premier federation in this country, is that the amount of money that athletes bring to this country every year, statistically, which only is factored for the prize money, because we cannot say how much appearance they get, is not less than 11 billion per year. That is why most of these athletes, especially the marathoners, 90% of the marathons, major marathons in the world, are won by athletes. Yesterday, I was in Iten, meeting with the CEO and a team from New York City Marathon. They came to see where the athletes train, because most of them, about 20 of those athletes since the inception of the New City Marathon, have won the New City Marathon. The number of visitors they come to Iten are very many, and that's why Iten has been termed as the drug city of
the Mecca
in Kenya.
It's the Mecca of running.
The Mecca of running, and you find. So when you go link that one now with the tourism, what we have done as Athletes Kenya, of course now I'm the Deputy President of National Olympic Committee, is that we have managed to bring on board 4 major events in this country, which is a world events. We have the Jeff Saita, which is also a major one. This is called the label we have now. Last week we've completed Sirikwa. We are waiting now for Kipkeino Classic in April, and then of course the Express City Marathon. Those are major marathons, and the amount of money that we receive is huge. The visitors that they come to this country during the Nairobi City Marathon, we had last year more than 200 tourists from China and various parts of the world. So you can see now the impact that the value that athletes bring is immense. The only issue that we have not done is to make sure that we make sure that use this opportunity to raise funds for the athletes. And when you see the prize money for Nairobi City Marathon, is comparable to the other major marathons in the world, like New York and London and Boston. So we get a lot of money for the athletes that benefit from that. And then Athletes Kenya has continued now to nurture talent across the country. We have camps practically everywhere in the country to make sure that we have continuous source of athletes. We will bring now the sponsors, partnership with companies like ASA, and then of course to support the government. And then we'll build the industry now in sports, because in the US, sports is an industry. So we have to change how we view sports in this country and make sure that we make it as an industry where the young people can benefit from that.
Dr. Adi, there's something Mariam has asked. How do you make someone who's come for Magical Kenya Open spend an extra 2-3 days? Because if you go, you guys are, most of you have been to the Great Ethiopian Run. People tailor their visits to Ethiopia to that run that happens in November. So what do you do to make sure that you take advantage of the people that Bwana Koril and the Magical Kenya Open is bringing to you?
Thank you. Yes, so we are in the space we're in the space of looking at how people can drop their last dollar or pound into the country. And that is by making sure you have come here for a sport activity, but it's more than that. So you'd find, after this, you'll find there are even Land Cruisers outside waiting to take people to see the animal orphanage, to the Nairobi National Park. So this weekend we'll be quite busy with the Nairobi National Park. We're still taking people for, sometimes they ask, how does the city look like? What is nightlife like? So we are really there in the space of diversification. You're coming for a sport, fair enough, but we want to offer you more to spend. So we keep saying, you don't come to sleep. If you spend your time on your bed and you're a visitor, we have lost it. We want to make you out there, explore the city, explore the country, understand. So our intention is to look at, actually you can see people hovering flyers. Do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? So we strategize ourselves to see where is the event, what are the next possible sites within short stay, because if you're in this part of area, there are very many things you can do to enjoy and almost feel you are in a country. You can do the animal orphanages here, you can do the Nairobi National Park, you can view you can do the city, you can go to short excursions in Naivasha, in short distance. So we organize ourselves and we package and prepare what we call short itineraries that are able to capture and drop dollars into the country.
You know, Dr. Kizetu, I have to push back on this. I feel like the tourism sector is a bit lazy. And this is what I mean. If you just think about somebody who's come for the Magical Kenya Open, let's say a spectator, they're here, they've come to see the golf tournament. Obviously, you'll think about what they can do around for the days of the tournament, right? Now, if our first thinking is the Nairobi National Park standard, and then nightlife, so you'll think of taking them to these restaurants that serve meat, okay. Now, how many other places would we say that you even challenge the Nairobi City County to develop that? We have the museum that Peter was talking about. Do we see such extension of packages? Iten, like you said, is the mecca of athletics in Kenya. People who come to run for the Kipkeino Classic in Nairobi, it's a hop away from just a short flight to Eldoret and then a short drive to Iten, just to go and see and drink, breathe in the air and jog a bit and come back to Nairobi. I think
the same air
the same air as Kipchoge when he's training, or even just go in there early in the morning and find those athletes as they're starting to race early in the morning at whatever time, 3 a.m., whatever. Do the collab, come back to Nairobi in the afternoon. I think there's a lot more than the tourism sector can do to package.
Yes.
Maybe you can work collaboratively together as the Kenya Tourism Federation, and then now let the individual players take advantage. But there's more. Hii mambo ya kusema tu, come see our lions caged in the park. And then walk around Nairobi. And maybe you can go to Naivasha and see what? And see, we have a lake.
Hell's Gate.
No, let me say something.
Go to Hell's Gate and see what? Lions. Okay.
Let me demystify the word laziness. Whenever we have an event like this, for example, it's well planned. In fact, you find whenever you're sending maybe a ticket or invitation, there's a link of packages. So it's actually done early in advance. We are not coming to meet you at the event here and talk to you. What happens whenever an event is happening, there is a component of tourism. And that component develops what are the possible packages, and they are shared well in advance in terms of you get probably a ticket or an invite with a link showing options. So it's very well thought through. The people coming in have already been given some prior knowledge about the things they can enjoy depending on where they are. So it's not a sport, it's not as a reaction. It's well coordinated. So maybe I
don't doubt that. It's the variety of the offering. I will see vehicles at Nairobi National Park, I'm sure, that will be carrying people who have come for golf, I'm sure. Will I see vehicles taking them to other places? Will I see them at Ololua Forest doing a walk or Karura? Will I see them at just a random restaurant, Kibandaski, where they're sitting down to just kula nyama?
Will I see them doing a guided tour in Anganya?
Yeah, will I see them in Anganya, right? And so on.
I think there is a little bit, just to add to what you're saying, where we are not seeing this sporting event as the anchor that is actually attracting the tourism, because it's a different tourist to the one who comes to see the lion. Yes. We need to look at it from that angle. It's documented there's more than 10 million golfers, amateur golfers, who travel just to play. Now, this event would be marketed to them in that they would come and watch a high-level DP World Tour and then organize for them a game at the Great Rift, at Vipingo, and so on. If you look at our marathons, and here, Mr. Koril, I'll point a finger at you and you'll see. And I'm sitting next here to my brother who did a serious amateur run in Dubai. Crazy time, I think he might move to elite from us. And he'll tell you that we go to these marathons, and the majority of us, yes, we've gone to run. The reason we've gone to that city, the reason you went to Dubai last month, was to run. Then while you are there were other things to do. But the anchor event that actually took you there, our marathons, the city marathon that we organize, has a capability of having 5,000 to 10,000 visitors if marketed to the world. Because you are saying all of us, when we travel, we ask whether we run. Yet nobody comes to run in Kenya. We talked about the Ethiopian 10K race. People go there. The comrades down there, more than 20,000 foreigners go to South Africa for the comrades and so on. But they are not coming here to participate in sport. We are still talking about the Lions. So we need to start saying, come and run in Kenya as the anchor pool, so that we now get a different variety of tourists into this country.
Yeah, I think
I'll just add something about the businesses, especially the ones that are at the expo. This is just in the ecosystem of merchandising. For instance, when our team went to Olympics, they had a very unique kit. Even the RFU that the games ended last week, the rugby, we had a unique kit for Kenya. So when these tourists come to Kenya, the first thing they ask is, where can we get this merchandise? So, for instance, in my case, like a stakeholder, I'm Isaac. I'm the founder of Badek Shop. It's a sports supply brand. So we make this merchandise readily available for all these fans, especially the chant we had feeding the Kasarani Stadium. And all those people, most of them had the Kenyan merchandise. So you see, that's a unique niche that we are also participating into supporting the tourism capital that is coming to Kenya. Because when we go out there, the first thing we want to run into is the expo and buy those merchandise, because we assume, or we don't assume as much, we look at that as a sophisticated thing. So we could also want to encourage the government, the private stakeholders like ABSA now, who are giving us facilities to support us, to have the capacity to make this industry as vibrant as well. You could see the businesses at the expo here. They are running into 10s or 20s of franchises. So if all of them were local, I think we could also support the business of sports tourism.
I think riding on the positives around Chan, one of the biggest things around this conversation of sports tourism was a structured partnership with KTB to market the Magical Kenya brand outside throughout the Chan tournament. So I think it's something that really organizers of any events must take advantage of, because we have to leverage on it 100%. It brings a lot of input to the country from a tourism perspective. And that is something we saw throughout the Chan tournament. But of course, corporates want to see good governance, corporates want to see institutions that have integrity, and corporates want to see, obviously, leadership that has certain ethical standards to be in a position to also invest around such partnerships.
Yeah, and I think just to again just ride on the whole sports tourism, I think it's definitely time we stopped to just market the animals. I do agree. Like, come see the big five, and really market Kenya is bigger than that, and sports is really like such an integral part of who we are. But I think one thing you probably forgot to say, or you didn't know, and I know, Peter, you were part of this. I know, for example, last year, the Kenya Tourism Board had, I think, two forums where they engaged tour operators and got to speak to them about, like all the sporting events that they can plug into and just be able to, curate packages for the participants coming. For example, the Nairobi City Marathon is happening in June 4th. is June 7th, how can tour operators plug into this? How can sports organizers work with tour operators to make sure that there are proper partnerships where probably to the tour operators, you're also, you're giving them data, you're telling them, we have people coming from Rwanda, we have people coming from New York, we have people coming from all these places. And then also, I think one of the other things that KTB did last year, just capitalizing and riding on the World Marathon majors where Kenyans just go there to rule and bring all the money back home from all over the world, is that there was a series that Kenya Tourism Board worked on. It was a video series, digital series that was called This Is Where I Train. And technically, This Is Where I Train was a series that featured participants going to the World Marathon majors, going out to them where they train. You go to them in Ngong, you go to Kaptagat, you go to Kapsabet, you go to Nyahururu, you go to Nyeri, and you really get to talk to them and they get to show you around where they train. And from that series, I did realize that we are sleeping on a gold mine, that is sports tourism. And especially, I know all the other sports, but especially athletics, because it's already a product that is out there and has been accepted globally. We really can ride on that and we can do more.
I think just before you just hand over, and I've gotten what Lynn is saying, and even what Peter said earlier. We have different categories of tourists, and I'm sure, Dr. Kithitu, you and your colleagues in the tourism sector have already mapped out. There's a leisure tourist, there's a guy who wants to come and see the animals and lie on, somebody wants just to come and lie on the beach and sunbathe. Somebody else wants to come and run. Now, if you just worked with, for example, Athletics Kenya, and know the number of calendar events that they have around the year, and then you start to market targeting them, people who will be coming to run at the Kipkeino Classic or the Nairobi Marathon later, how about you market to them so they can come earlier and practice for the race a couple of days, in the year from here. Such kind of targeted marketing for the tourists to come. They are coming to do their running, but they're spending the money here, yes, that's right? And then they'll also then come later for the race. So I say, I ran in Nairobi, but I had prepared myself in Nyahururu, in Ngong, because I was running with the Kenyans as they were running. There are many opportunities maybe that we can just start thinking of expanding and seeing how to monetize on them.
Yeah. Sure, you're right. And this is rightly said. The way of doing business in tourism has evolved. No one is doing it the old school way. And if you do it that way, you will not remain in business for long. So we are looking at, remember we used to have cycles, high and low. Now we want to fill those gaps with activities like these sport activities that make sure that they even out the whole business flow. So we are really agile in terms of that space. We want to work with associations to make sure that we can develop products, we can forward look, we can forward plan. So really we are very, very, very flexible and agile in doing this business. We are part of the ecosystem.
Maybe we talk to the two people who run events, the three people, FKF, Barnaba, and Mr. Maranga. What can you guys do? What kind of support would you guys want so that we're able to do this whole sports and tourism thing? What do we help? What does Magical Kenya need from KTB and vice versa so that we're able to have the kind of thing that Eric is asking for?
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking to you.
Peter was very quick. We also run events,
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Lucas.
Okay, I'll answer that from what we are doing internally as Kenya Open Golf Limited, and also what these guys can do. So for us, we are seeing that having had this event since 1967, as a one-off, once a year is not enough. So you have everybody scrumming for this one event. So how about if we had Kenya Opens, maybe not of this size, but varying sizes throughout the year? So you have guys having the excuse of coming to play golf from outside throughout the year. That's number one. So then having done that, then connecting with tourism, again realizing that a golf tourist is one of the highest spenders you will get. They spend probably double what a regular tourist spends, because you want to come in a group, you want to come for 7 to 10 days. I think what I checked last was the average spend is about $2,000 for a golf tourist. So how then do we tap that with tourism to not just give offers, but good packages that are easy to execute? That's the thing now. You have someone calling you, my e-visa has been done something, so they have to go back. All those small things. And now being a government agency, they can now oil that whole machine to make it easier. So we are hoping that going forward, we have more than this one event of this nature, so there's more excuse to keep coming and coming and coming and coming. Yeah.
Barnaba?
Yeah. I think there's a lot Magical Kenya Tourist Board can do. In the past, we have had a very good conversation, and also we got support from them through Peter here, and it worked very well. What I would like to ask is that we want to work very closely, especially in the international events. Branding and advertisement also, I've seen that mostly they need to utilize, especially our top athletes. One time, I think when Pamela was running, and I talked to Kenya Tourist Board to see if they can assist. So we need those activities to be active. Kipino Classic is a very big event, and every time we had contact with the Americans and the Europeans, they want to come to Kenya, and they want to go to Nairobi National Park and other parks. And we do that. And I think we have worked also very closely to get the rebates when we go there. Most of them have already gone there. And in fact, one time, the 100-meter world champion, the world record holder, came here and adopted a cheetah. So those are the things that we need to really do to ensure that we work very closely with KTV. KTV can do so much that can promote sports in this country. It has to be an industry that also elevates and supports also the young people. And the pathway for our athletes is through now the Kenya Tourist Board to assist and ensure that you market our own athletes and give them more opportunity, and using their performance to sell it to the Kenyans.
Yeah, mine is just to encourage KTB that charity begins at home, that the football ecosystem is beyond CHAN, which has foreign, and perhaps AFCON, which is coming. That we have very many competitions locally, which they also need to leverage on. Very many people, perhaps even players who have not been to some of our national parks here. So perhaps to just have a structured partnership to extend that to our local competitions so that we can leverage on whatever partnership we have with them.
Peter, you sit right at the interjection, at the roundabout. On one side you're a marketer, on one side you're an organizer. Or you sit on both sides of the fence, so to speak. What should we do? What can we do? How can we make this better?
First, as an event organizer in sports, together with the federation, we must realize that brands, including even brands like Magical Kenya, who sometimes we approach with the old mentality of donations, brands are looking for a good return. And the return now is way beyond brand visibility. They need to get where they're creating an emotional connection with both the participants and the spectators and the total audience within the sports ecosystem. So as sports organizers, we have to start thinking through how we are structuring our sport. There is a way you can structure your event that makes it more attractive. For example, what the Kenya Open have done here, the places that we are sitting here, this could easily have been about just the golf event. It could easily have been us just watching this golf place and are leaving. But they've ensured that the fans that come to the current club here have activities that keep them here for way beyond the playing hours, and those opportunities are then taken up by the corporates, who then have an opportunity to engage with the fans, the spectators who came here, and the whole 360 space starts working very well in that way.
Thank you. Just as we wrap up the conversation, I wanted to take the class into a practical after the theoretical class, and I'll just go around the panel. Take any potential sports tourist from anywhere in the world and sell them magical Kenya as a destination. I'll begin with Ferdinand.
Assignment.
Okay, repeat the question.
Sell magical Kenya to a sports tourist, a potential sports tourist from anywhere in the world, any sport. You can pick whichever. What do you tell them in 1 minute or less to bring them to magical Kenya?
So let's say we're having an event coming up, or
yes.
I'm just speaking directly to someone outside the country.
Yes.
Of course, I'll be selfish and go with athletics, We're having Kipkeino coming up. One thing I just thought about it when you're having this conversation, we're having the World Relays a week after the Kipkeino Classic. So I'll go directly to camps, to athletics camps that are interested, and the world is coming to Botswana a week after Kipkeino. I'll advise them to come 3 weeks earlier and come and train in Kenya. For the long distance guys can go and train in Iten or Kaptagat. For the sprinters, we can have 1 or 2 sessions together. Just for the fun of it. And that will be something that they will really love to come and do. And it will be good also for the audience. And it will be good for Kenya as well. So for me, that's what I've just thought about right here.
That's a great one. That's a great one. Clock it. He told them, come and train with me,
Yeah. Yeah, maybe for me is from a football perspective, that AFCON is coming in Eastern Central Africa. So I think that will be the best thing from a football perspective to sell to any person through Magical Kenya.
Love that.
I know I'm not part of this assignment.
I was going to skip over you, but
I just want to put out there, look at what iShowSpeed was able to do. So I think to Eric's point about diversification, there's certain things that he did and showed and immersed himself in that I think we're sleeping on, that exist as tourism. You could see the reaction. Why? It's sampling food, sampling culture. So anyway, don't give me marks. These are the people of the assignment.
Okay, cool. Yeah. You already got them, though.
Well, the assignment. So obviously, for me, I know for everybody here, it's common knowledge that I'll pick athletics, for sure. And so, okay, where do I start? So let's say it's George, right? So I've met George. Oh, hi, George. My name is Lynn. I'm from Kenya. And we've won the most Olympics medals in Africa, 124 Olympic medals, most of them from running. And we have great runners. Last year, our runners won all the world marathon majors, apart from one. And they all train in Kenya. And we also do have races in Kenya. So technically, you could come run at the Nairobi City Marathon on 7th of June. And while doing that, even without going out of the city, you could go to Ngong and see where Alexander Mutiso, remember him? He won the London Marathon, he trains there. So you're able to go run with him, experience where and how, Kenyan athletes live. But also, even before you leave the city again, we have the Nairobi National Park, of course. Kenya, the only country in the world with a national park in the capital city. And you can sample our foods. It's really a lot. We would have to probably have a seat and talk about this, but come to Kenya.
Love it. Nice one, Lynn. Vanaba?
Now,
students.
Now, what can I say? Because both of them have talked about what I was supposed to say. Fadi is here is actually the king of sprints in this country, and we are really proud of what he has done. He's transformed the sprints in Kenya. However, the Nairobi City Marathon, which is coming up, I know Lynn has mentioned that. I had a discussion with the CEO of New York City Marathon, and we discussed that most of the participants from all the parts of the world, they go to New York, not necessarily to run, but to visit New York itself. So I said, okay, let us have a discussion to see how we can also make Nairobi City towards destination for the marathon. So we discussed and we agreed that we have to prepare a package where now they can assist us now so that people from all parts of the world can come to visit Nairobi and they can also run Nairobi City Marathon and eventually go to Masai Mara and other national parks, especially to see the Great Migration.
Mine is first to promote Magical Kenya and of course promote our brand. I will tell the world that we have a variety of merchandise in Kenya. The flags, t-shirts, the bracelets that Rini mentioned. So you only need to pick a duffel bag from wherever you are. Just come to Kenya. We are very accessible. We have a full website where you will see the merchandise. We'll customize it to you real time to what you want with our Kenyan theme, with the slangs, Sindo Anoma, you know those things. Yeah, so we have these things available in Kenya, so they don't need to fear about where to buy these things. They are very readily available and we have capacity. So Kenya is now on the global stage, so we have these items in Kenya. They need to come. Yes.
Yes, Peter?
I'm very tempted to move away from athletics. But let me just start saying, you know, as a badminton player, most of you might not know that I was a badminton player. Okay. I visited 40 countries. And sports does create this very unique need to travel, either to attend events and so on. But I also, as a marketer, think that we should really focus on where our strength is. And this has to be in athletics. And I think it's undersold. It's already being sold, but it's still undersold. Any of you who would visit E10 would know or see. You don't even need the number of foreigners going to train there. And you have to ask yourself why we don't have the big hotel chains setting up shop in E10. If there's a place that needs a new airport, is E10. So for me, I would, if I'm going to try and sell some piece of Magical Kenya, I would focus on marathoners participating in London, Boston, and Tokyo. And ask me why later. Those events are in March and April. To be able to train for those events, you need to train outdoor. You need to run, 200 kilometers a week? 200 kilometers a week. Now, half of the world is in winter, in January and February. We should be opening up E10 so that create a warm training environment for both professionals and amateurs, just training for those three events. Those three events together is easily 150,000 runners.
Nice. I quite like that. Very, and also easy to execute. Tell them you'll get the same, what is it called, the oxygen or whatever that, yeah, they get, altitude advantage, there we go.
Where the champions do. Actually,
do we skip over Eric?
Yeah, we skip over Eric.
I had written some of those things that had been, Peter, you've said, you know, like, you know, come run in Kenya and such. Watch us skim to our golf. Where are you going golf? You let the athletics.
And that is the only part I was going to speak about, Eric, here. So I would tell them, go with the tagline for this event. We are open to all, open to the world. Specifically, this event is the biggest golf event on the continent out of SA. I think there are like two, which are similar, but probably the biggest in prize money. But then I would say that Kenya has more than 40 golf courses, and to allude to Peter's point, you can play all year round. So come one, come all.
Okay, Daktari.
Yeah, thank you. In fact, I found myself 2 weeks ago in Mexico, and a Mexican who is a golfer asked me, in Kenya, how is golf? And I got an opportunity to sell now. So I told him, in Kenya, you hit the ball and the zebra returns it to you. He said, what do you mean? Then I Googled Vipingo, and I showed him the zebras in the golf course. And he was like, really? This is what I want to do. So really, just things that are unique. He believed that he will hit the ball and the zebra will return it. And that's something he said, this is in my bucket list. Yeah.
Ooh, there we go. Manifesting. Zebras returning golf balls. We have to wrap up the show there. But a massive thank you from all of us here at Fixing the Nation. It's been a wonderful morning discussing sports tourism, the opportunities, the challenges, everything that's available to us as a country. And of course, Magical Kenya is a very easy destination to sell. I think that last 5 minutes shows. So let's all put our backs into it and of course continue. The Magical Kenya Open is a free-for-all, so make your way down to the Current Country Club, get a ticket, and of course enjoy the rest of the weekend. Hashtag is Fixing the Nation and TV. Tupatane Monday asubuhi 6 to 10 a.m. Right? From myself, Mariam Bishar, of course, Janet Mbugwa, and Eric Latif. Asanteni sana.